What are we talking about? Practice? We're talking about practice, man.
This is UnCleated with Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, and Jason Bishop.
In my opinion, that sucked.
We failed to make our coaching points and our points more compelling than their fat little girlfriends.
Oh my God, did he really just say that?
UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, and myself, Jason Bishop, welcome you along for the Thanksgiving edition of UnCleated. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. Garrett, Tyler, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, man. Brother. Thank you.
Man, we got a lot to get into, and before we do that, I also want to remind folks, hey, check us out on Twitter. Give us a follow at UnCleated. Give us a follow. Shoot us a tweet. Might get your tweet read on the air. Also, look for us on Facebook and add us there. You can find us at UnCleated on the Facebook page as well. So we've got a ton of stuff to get into, like I just mentioned. We're going to take a look at the national championship picture, which completely changed after this past weekend. We're going to play another game of What If. Should the Falcons unload Tony Gonzalez? We're also going to take a look at the Georgia Southern Florida game, and we're going to discuss the eligibility issues and legal issues of Jameis Winston. So with so much to get into, we're going to get right into it, starting with headlines.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen. Cannonball!
Headlines.
Aaron Murray for the Georgia Bulldogs going down, the coveted 4-year starter for the Bulldogs. He's gone down with an torn ACL, and he's going to be out for the rest of the year. Of course, they don't have but Georgia Tech left on the regular season schedule, but they still have a bowl game that still remains to be seen who they play. But that's a big blow for the Bulldogs.
The Braves, after quite a few years with Brian McCann, are unfortunately saying farewell to the 29-year-old catcher. He is going to the Yankees now with a 5-year, $85 million contract with the option for the 6th at $100 million. Unfortunately, the Braves see him go, and we look forward to him having a new home in Yankees Stadium and more progress and production from this fella.
Hey, guess what? Alex Rodriguez is back in the headlines as if we don't see enough of him. So the hearing officially has ended. Alex Rodriguez, the appealing the huge suspension, the 211-game suspension levied by Bud Selig, the Major League Baseball commissioner. Funny thing is that I find comical with this is when Major League Baseball is presenting their case against Alex Rodriguez and they're showing the evidence. Rodriguez gets ticked off, storms out of the courtroom like a 2-year-old, and then drives to the local New York ESPN affiliate and does an interview talking about how it was unfair that he was being treated. Alex Rodriguez, you are a grown man, and the allegations that have been brought against you are because that you have been guilty in the past. So whether they're warranted or not right now, you have to understand that Major League Baseball is cracking down on you because they want it out of the game and you have been the poster boy. So whether or not the allegations or the suspension is fair, the worst thing you could have done is storm out of the courtroom like a 3-year-old kid and then run and tattletale on national radio. That's ridiculous. I'll be glad when this ends.
And his teammate, Robinson Cano, is acting like a child too, in my opinion. He wants $300 million. He wants to be the first $300 million athlete, not just baseball player, but $300 million athlete. And I think that's ridiculous. I understand at some point if baseball sticks around long enough, there is going to be someone break that $300 million threshold, if you will. But I just don't think Robinson Cano is the guy. I mean, he's arguably one of the best second basemen, if not the best second baseman in the game. But the guy's 30 years old. I mean, would you invest that kind of money in a guy who wants a 10-year deal at $310 million? That's going to put him up through he's 40 years old. I just don't see that being a good investment.
let's say 6 championships from Jimmie Johnson. That's impressive on anyone's standards. Congratulations goes out to Jimmie Johnson and Hendricks Motorsports. Chad Knaus, you deserve some of that too. We have 66 wins from Jimmie Johnson in 12 seasons. The guy's just slap impressive. It's really hard to say anything negative about Jimmie Johnson these days. He just keeps winning, and he just keeps winning championships. I think LeBron James should take a look over here and take some notes. Not 1, not 2, blah, blah, blah. We're at 6 now, so keep it up, Jimmie Johnson. Good job, buddy.
Richie Incognito. God almighty, I'm tired of turning on ESPN and seeing his face. Now Incognito has officially rejoined or he has not officially rejoined the Dolphins, but he has officially been allowed back into their facilities. The word is on the street is that the Dolphins locker room wants him back, and so odds are Richie Incognito is going to get reinstated to play with the Miami Dolphins at least for next year, if not by the end of this year. So my question now is where is Jonathan Martin? The guy has all of a sudden vanished off the face of the planet. The Dolphins have not met with him yet. Of course, the NFL's rescheduled that meeting. But where is he? You have heard nothing from him, and of course, you know, Richie Incognito is on 60 Minutes, and you see his face on SportsCenter every time you turn on ESPN.
Tigers and the Rangers also looks like they straight up trade with Prince Fielder for Ian Kinsler. Looks like Prince is going to be down there in Arlington next season, showing off his talents at first base, and looks like Ian's going to be playing second base for Detroit. I don't know how that trade's going to work out. Very rarely do you ever see a straight up trade like that. Looks like, you know, Fielder's 29. He's the same age as Brian McCann, as Tyler said earlier, but he's still got $168 million owed to him, and you know that's a big responsibility to take on. The guy better hope he just slams 40-50 bombs. I think anything less than that is you know, not going to be really considered a great trade. And if Texas definitely doesn't make the playoffs.
UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop. Talking about slamming 40-50 bombs. I could slam about 40-50 chicken McNuggets.
Yes, you can. I think every time you come over here, you're kind of, every time I see you come up in the parking lot, I walk up there, roll down the window, like you got so many chicken nuggets they almost fall out the window. You can't roll it down like halfway.
Are we reaching for a sponsor here, guys? I don't know.
The thing is, I'm a Chicken McNugget Man fan. I'm not gonna lie about it. I'm not gonna overly defend myself. I love that. I can't eat them. When I was a kid, man, like I could tear them up, but I can't eat them like I could when I was a kid, because if I do, you know, I'm already big enough as it is, and eating McDonald's every day. So that's my Sunday thing. When we record the show, on my way here, I stop at McDonald's and I grab a 20-pack. I'll grab a fry and I'll grab a Coke. And I'll sit there and I will but you can't have them. You can't do the McNuggets unless you have the sweet and sour sauce. To me, that's what makes it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I've eaten enough McNuggets in my life to say that it's kind of like 2 peas in a pod, man. You can't have one without the other.
I disagree with both of you. I kind of like to have the honey mustard and mix it with the barbecue, but you know, to each their own.
Yeah, that's good. You know,
see, that's the good thing about them though. You can fully customize them.
Yeah,
you know, I like that.
I wish, you know, you've got an advantage over me, Garrett, because you know you've got two little ones. So whenever you want to go to McDonald's, you can just talk your kids and then play it off like it's their idea.
That's right.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah, and they kill them too. So I mean, you know, they're big McNugget fans.
So I guess I know what you guys are eating for Thanksgiving.
No, we're gonna go a little above that for. Well, I hope
some
anyway.
Turkey McNuggets.
I hope anyway. I hadn't talked to the wife yet, but
we're gonna get a McRib instead of.
That's right. We'll step up large fries instead of small or medium, I should say.
What are plans? What are we doing for Thanksgiving?
Well, I'm going with my wife's family. We're going over to the river and just have a big family affair. There's going to be about 50 of us, and fry up a turkey or two. And just kind of chillax, man.
Yeah, I'm just going to have a good time with the family, hang out with my dog, and eat some turkey and some ham, and probably put myself into a food coma before 1 o'clock.
I'm going to wake up about 9 a.m., get ready to take a nap at 11.
Wake up to get ready?
Wake up at 1, eat some food, probably until 3:30. I'm going to eat from 1 until 3:30. and then I'm going to nap at 3:45, and I'm probably going to nap until 6, and then I'll wake up, watch SportsCenter, watch highlights till about football-ish stuff until about 8 or 9. Then I'm going to go to sleep until the next morning, and then wake up the next day and sleep some more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get to wake up. Now, let me ask you this: do you get dressed before you take a nap?
No.
You wake up. So you just wake up, bum around for a few minutes, then take a long nap.
And then shower after the nap.
Shower after. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Shower after the nap.
Oh, well, in that case, you're good. Yeah. Never mind.
That's right.
Oh, this good Lord, the life that we lead. All right, so UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. We got to get out.
104.1 The Wave presents the Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, the authority on Southern sports.
This Southern Sports Edition Minute is brought to you by Island Automotive. The Frederica Knights failed to defend their state title as they went down to Curtis Baptist Friday night, 37-17 in the Final Four of the GISA playoffs. On Pirate Waters, Brunswick High will play their first basketball game in the brand new gym on January the 10th against Valdosta. This has been your Southern Sports Edition Minute, a product of the Bishop Media Sports Network, brought to you by Island Automotive. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at SSE Sports, and be sure to check out UnCleated with myself, Garrett Gibbs, and Tyler Mitchell at theSouthernSportsEdition.com.
Pick up your copy of SSE all over the Golden Isles. The Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, exclusively on 104.1 The Wave.
D1 football coverage. I mean real football coverage. Your answer then is Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com. From high school football to the pros, no one knows more and has better perspective on the teams you care about. Bulldogs, Falcons, Braves, and everything Southern Sports. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com has names you know and trust. Guys from here, born and raised. Names like J.C. Outlaw, Kevin Price, Jason Bishop, and many more you know and trust. Ask your mom now. They'll tell you. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com is your unmatched source for Southern sports, period. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com.
With the Southern Sports Edition Minutes, brought to you by Robbie Robertson Ford, I'm Brian Blunt. GHSA football round 2 playoff action is history, and in Class 5A, the Ware County Gators dominated Northside Warner Robins in the Swamp Friday night, 35-7. Diedrich Mill scored yet another 3 touchdowns on the evening. And a coin flip will determine the venue of round 3 for the Gators as they take on Tucker next weekend, a 16-13 winner over East Paulding Friday. Meanwhile, in Class AAA, Pierce County season came to an end on the road at Callaway as the 5th-ranked Cavaliers defeated the Bears 49-21. Be sure to pick up your free copy of the Southern Sports Edition at Robbie Robertson Ford, 2825 Memorial Drive in Waycross, and visit us online at theSouthernSportsEdition.com. The Southern Sports Edition is a product of the Bishop Media Sports Network and is brought to you by Robbie Robertson Ford.
UnCleated back on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop along with you. Hey, don't forget to check us out. Find us on Twitter. Give us a follow at UnCleated. Also look for us on Facebook. Give us a like. And, of course, anytime that you post a comment on Facebook or if you tweet at us, we will read your tweets online or during the show, at least, as long as they're appropriate, and any questions you have, Garrett will answer those questions.
No, okay.
Okay, so it looks like a couple weeks ago we played a game of what if, so now it looks like that we are now, the BCS does this. It seems to always take care of itself and answer these questions. So we're down to 3 unbeaten teams: Florida State, Alabama, Ohio State. Those are our three unbeatens from the major conferences. We're not looking at Northern Illinois or Fresno because they're non-AQ conferences. So it looks like those are going to be your three unbeatens. And I think the most comical thing to me is the Pac-12 championship game, or whatever that game's going to look like. It was Oregon, then it was Stanford, now it's Oregon again. Who wants to play? Who wants that Pac-12 championship? I don't know if anybody really wants to win it, Garrett.
No, Oregon with Stanford losing to USC, I think they kind of handed it back over to Oregon, and then Oregon goes on and just lays an egg. But they didn't just lose, man. They got woodshedded. So I think that pretty much takes them out the championship race in the Pac-12, and I think that pretty much just hands it right back over to Stanford. And I don't think Stanford wants it. I don't know who's left on their schedule right off the top of my head, but they're going to lose one of them games.
And then Oregon will be back. Before long, USC is going to win the Pac-12.
See, USC crept back up into the top 25, which I predicted that one. And so, yeah, they're liable to be in first place before you know it.
Well, the thing is, USC is actually on the other side of the division where Stanford and Oregon do not reside, and they're done because Arizona State has a 2-game lead on USC. So Arizona State is going to be in that game with their big win over UCLA, the Pac-12 championship. Looks like they're going to play Stanford right now, but Tyler, he changes week to week.
Apparently it has been. It's a crazy situation, but it looks like Stanford might peek their little head back in here and play some football. Oregon, they just find a way to give it back. It's really crazy. Not only did it seem like they give a shot back at the championship, but looks like they threw their Heisman contender under the bus too, along with this loss.
Mariota, with the first 2 picks of the season that he's thrown, one of course was just a miraculous, spectacular interception. The ball was tipped back in bounds. Not his fault, but that second interception he threw late in the game was awful. That's a throw that I make.
Yeah, and Arizona, kind of beat them like every other, kind of like Stanford beat them. They just controlled the clock, and they ran for over 300 yards on them.
It looks like, and the Oregon win last week wasn't really all that impressive. So it looks like Stanford has now kind of laid a blueprint for everybody on how to beat Oregon.
That's what I was thinking. The blueprint has been laid out here for these guys to, hey, guess what? Run all over them.
Yeah, I mean, and run it, and then you control the clock, and that way when Mariota and company get on the field, there's a lot more pressure on them, and so that's why you see the mistakes he made. Saturday against Arizona was he had a lot of pressure on him, and plus, they were down like 28-9.
Several players from the Ducks came out this week, and they were slated before this loss to, if they won the Pac-12, to go to the Rose Bowl, and several of them came out and said, Rose Bowl, man, we don't want to go. We've already done the Rose Bowl. We don't want to go to the Rose Bowl. That's
no problem there.
Yeah, good deal because you're not going.
Yeah, you ain't going this year. Yeah, so you got your wish.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A Bowl, buddy.
You're not going to the BCS either.
Christmas
BCS
came early for Oregon.
Yeah, that. Go ahead, Garrett.
And I don't like to hear that because being, I don't want to call it arrogance, but I mean it's kind of like being spoiled brats. Okay, they get their teeth kicked in by Stanford. And then they come out and before this game, they're talking some trash, talking about, well, we don't want to go to the Rose Bowl or whatever. Well, how about this? You get beat, one more time, you might not be going to any bowl that's even televised. So,
anything worth work. Yeah, keep up the good work. On the other side of the coin, the other undefeated team that was left, Baylor, had a huge game, national stage, late night game, prime time. A chance to show how good they were, and we were talking about Stanford blowing out Oregon when Oregon had the same opportunity. Well, Baylor did the exact same thing against Oklahoma State.
Yes, they did. Oklahoma State just, they just whooped them. Good old Mississippi butt whooping right there because they outrushed them, they outpassed them, and they controlled the clock. I mean, they won on both sides of the football.
They did, and it always hurts when you have 3 lost fumbles. Turnovers is the key to any football game. NFL, college, it doesn't matter. Anytime your opponent has no turnovers and you have 3 on the ground, that's going to kill your possession. It's going to kill your time of possession, and evidently it's going to kill the game for you.
Mike Gundy in the post-game interview said that he felt like their game plan going in was to hold Baylor to about 35 points. Well,
wow.
Yeah. Well, you vastly succeeded as they only put up 17 total. So good job, Van. He's a man.
He's the man. Don't forget that.
He's 40.
That. Yeah, he's 40. Well, he's 40. I don't know. He was 40.
Oh goodness gracious!
But that seems that same philosophy on how you beat Oregon. That's exactly what Oklahoma State did to Baylor. The only difference is where Stanford and Arizona rushed the football, Oklahoma State, their offense looked amazing, explosive, and Baylor's defense, which has been highly touted as being better than what folks thought it was going to be. Yeah, not so much.
Yeah,
not against a good offense.
Yeah, what they did to Oklahoma, I think that solidified Baylor's case, or helped solidify Baylor's case. But Oklahoma State, don't forget, Oklahoma State is leagues above Oklahoma this year. So when they really came up against and we talked about this a couple shows back, that Baylor coming down the stretch, their last part of their schedule was somewhat brutal because I still think they have TCU on the schedule and Texas. So, and they're liable to lose one of them two. So, because I think Texas is better than what they've shown. But anyway, they come up against a good team in Oklahoma State and just get blown off the field,
Yeah, just one thing. I'm sitting here looking at the paper. I'm looking at the stats. Just something that's just jumping out to me. It's going to be hard to lose a game when you're averaging 16 yards per pass.
Yeah.
I mean, what else do you need to do if you're getting over a first down every time you put the ball in the air? Guess what? Put it in there.
That's almost averaging 2 first downs per pass.
4 plays, you're down the field, you're in field goal range.
It was an impressive, dominating effort on Oklahoma State from the Cowboys to down the Bears. The interesting scenario now is, of course, Oklahoma State looking so impressive, where that was supposed to be a stage for Baylor. Well, Oklahoma stole that limelight. Oklahoma State stole that limelight, and they looked really good. And with everything that's kind of going down and all the craziness of the BCS that seems to happen week to week, Oklahoma State, remember, only has 1 loss on the year.
Anything can happen.
It would not surprise me. I certainly think that win, they went out and gets them into a BCS game. But, like Tyler said, anything can happen. And in the BCS, most of the time, if it can happen, Garrett, it will.
Yeah, just ask the Georgia Bulldogs of last week. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. You're right. You're right. I mean, the only loss that they have is West Virginia, and they have Oklahoma. I believe it's 2 weeks. Actually, they have a bye week, and then 2 weeks from now, they'll play Oklahoma.
So
the year.
Right, with Oregon and Baylor going down, it leaves us with 3 unbeatens: Alabama, Ohio State, Florida State, of course, not including the non-AQs. So are we all in agreement here? I think we are. I think we kind of discussed this in our meetings pre-show. We're all in agreement that the best 2 teams in the country, and not only that, but the 2 most deserving teams that are left, Florida State, Alabama.
I agree. 100%.
Without blinking an eye, I can agree with you.
Florida State and Alabama,
Absolutely.
if they went out. And Ohio State, having been undefeated for the last 2 years, is still on the outside looking in.
They're on the outside looking in because of the cupcake schedule that they play.
Yeah, schedule somebody.
Congratulations, though. Good job, guys.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing in the Big Ten's down. It's been down for a couple years. So if you know that, Urban Meyer, schedule somebody outside of your conference that's going to give you a quality win. It's that simple. Call Chris Peterson at Boise State. He'll tell you how to do it.
That's right.
Hey, that's not a joke either. Boise State jumped up there and threw themselves into the fire with some strong teams. So I respect that. I'd like to see more of that from Ohio.
UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop. We unfortunately are up against a hard break. When we get back, should the Falcons trade Tony Gonzalez?
With the Southern Sports Edition Minutes, brought to you by Robbie Robertson Ford, I'm Brian Blunt. GHSA football round 2 playoff action is history, and in Class 5A, the Ware County Gators dominated Northside Warner Robins in the Swamp Friday night, 35-7. Dedrick Mill scored yet another 3 touchdowns on the evening. And a coin flip will determine the venue of round 3 for the Gators as they take on Tucker next weekend, a 16-13 winner over East Paulding Friday. Meanwhile, in Class AAA, Pierce County season came to an end on the road at Callaway as the 5th-ranked Cavaliers defeated the Bears 49-21. Be sure to pick up your free copy of the Southern Sports Edition at Robbie Robertson Ford, 2825 Memorial Drive in Waycross, and visit us online at thesouthernsportsedition.com. The Southern Sports Edition is a product of the Bishop Media Sports Network and is brought to you by Robbie Robertson Ford.
D1 football coverage. I mean real football coverage. Your answer then is Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com. From high school football to the pros, no one knows more and has better perspective on the teams you care about. Bulldogs, Falcons, Braves, and everything Southern Sports. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com has names you know and trust. Guys from here, born and raised. Names like J.C. Outlaw, Kevin Price, Jason Bishop, and many more you know and trust. Ask your mom now. They'll tell you. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com is your unmatched source for Southern sports, period. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com.
1041 The Wave presents the Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, the authority on Southern sports.
This Southern Sports Edition Minute is brought to you by Island Automotive. The Frederica Knights failed to defend their state title as they went down to Curtis Baptist Friday night, 37-17 in the Final Four of the GISA playoffs. On Pirate Waters, Brunswick High will play their first basketball game in the brand new gym on January the 10th against Valdosta. This has been your Southern Sports Edition Minute, a product of the Bishop Media Sports Network, brought to you by Island Automotive. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at SSE Sports, and be sure to check out UnCleated with myself, Garrett Gibbs, and Tyler Mitchell at the SouthernSportsEdition.com.
Pick up your copy of SSE all over the Golden Isles. The Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, exclusively on 1041 The Wave.
UnCleated, the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop along with you. You know, as most of you know, we all kind of have an eye on high school football, and then there's a publication that our parent company owns called the Southern Sports Edition that covers high school football. So this past Friday night, obviously here in Georgia, we're in high school football playoff season, and so just wanted to extend a congratulations to the Ware County Gators, who is in the coverage area for the Southern Sports Edition, as they have now reached the Elite Eight for the second consecutive year. Of course, Ware County ended up playing for the state championship last year as well. So congratulations to Coach Dudley and his guys, and congratulations on great seasons to the Frederica Academy Knights, who went out, Pierce County Bears, who also went out, and unfortunately the Camden County Wildcats, who went out, all teams that the Southern Sports Edition covers. Speaking of covering, a lot of folks have had problems covering Tony Gonzalez in his career, and it looks like his career is going to end on a really sour note, guys.
Yeah, it does. The Falcons, they just ain't got it this year. I think they've been bitten a little bit by the injury bug. Their offense, they Julio Jones going down, Roddy White being hurt pretty much all year. Gonzalez is the real deep threat down the field. And they're just killing him with double and triple coverage, because they don't really have anybody. Harry Douglas is still not a first or second guy, so he's not been able to take a lot of the pressure off Gonzalez, and it's sad to see. I feel bad for the guy, because I think he came back believing that they could be in the Super Bowl this year, and they've gone exactly the opposite. They've done a complete 180.
Right. I mean, if you're going off of last year, you would totally expect the Falcons to be in the running right now, to be at the top of the division, or at least very close with the Saints. Saints, coming back with the coach, they do have a good team this year and a really easy chance. Well, unless the Panthers step up, but they're dominating the division. The Falcons getting rid of Tony Gonzalez, unfortunately, I mean, what is in Atlanta for him at this point? It hurts to say that, but we're not doing anything for him. It's not a one-man show. He can't go out there. I mean, unless he wants to play running back too, there's really not much he can do. I mean, we're just stuck.
So, that poses the question. Obviously, Atlanta's had a dreadful year. They're going to get a high draft pick come at the end of the season. there are a lot of teams that could use Tony Gonzalez and what he brings to a football team that are in contention for the playoffs and might be Super Bowl contenders. Should Atlanta unload him? Should they trade him?
Well, I think at this point, you're so far into the season that, there's no chance even running the table now, you're 2-9. I mean, they're not gonna run the table to make the playoffs. So let's be real about it. I think they should just keep it. I think he wants to stay. For what I don't know, but I think he wants to stay. And I think that Atlanta can use them because they have a lot of young players in that locker room, and they can use him for that, his mentorship. And I think a lot of them players can learn from him, and I think they keep him at this point. Let him retire Falcon.
Yeah, I would like to see him retire Falcon. It kind of looks like family ties might be keeping him in Atlanta, maybe not wanting to, relocate his son that actually pushed him to stay for one more year with the Falcons. So, yeah, I'd hate to unload him. You could keep him and get a lot of value out of that with your young tight end that we have, very big guy also. And if Tony could shed any light on some of these guys work ethic-wise and just reading defense, it's going to be a benefit for the Falcons in the long run, but just for Tony Gonzalez, all you can really do is feel bad for the guy at this point.
Don't get me wrong, I feel bad for him, but I disagree with you both. I think you have to trade him. You're not going anywhere. He's going to retire at the end of the year. You're not going to get anything out of him when he leaves. And so, a team like Kansas City, who he spent most of his career with anyway, who has contacted Atlanta and has an interest in him, why would you not, if you're going nowhere, why would you not trade that piece and get some draft picks back for him because he has value. I mean, granted, you're not going to get a first-round pick out of him, but you might get a third or fourth-round pick, maybe two.
Well, he's got playoff value,
That's what I'm saying. And sure, I get the mentorship thing and all that. That's what you have coaches for. And I'm not devaluing that. I think there's a lot that comes with that. But just as an organization, you've had such a terrible year, and you've got a lot of talent on your roster. That's the thing. I don't think, every once in a while a good team has a bad year, and then they get that high draft pick, they make a good pick, and then the next year they're a championship contender, not just in the NFL, but it goes all the way around. You think all the way back to San Antonio with Tim Duncan. They were a playoff team the year before. They had a bad year because of injuries. They picked Tim Duncan. Guess what? Next year they win the championship because they got that high pick. So I think the same thing could happen with the Falcons. I just think he's not the face of your franchise. He hasn't been there very long, a couple years, 3 years maybe. So it's not like that he's been a stalwart in your community for a very long time or the face of an organization for a very long time. I think you have to trade him. I really do.
I'm glad I'm not the one making that decision.
Yeah,
that's a tough decision to make. I mean, I see your point where you can at least get something for him if you got, you're not, like you said, I mean, they're not going anywhere. So, why I feel like, if he will go somewhere else, why I feel like you're wasting his time, not only yours but his, and then you can actually get something in return for that. I see the point.
Yeah, and then I hear, well, he doesn't want to go anywhere, much like what you just said, Tyler. But what's he supposed to say? Do you really think that he wants to end his career on a 2-14 team? Do you really think, of course when he's asked in the media, he's going to say, yeah, I want to stay here. But I guarantee you, deep down, that's not what he wants to do. Deep down, he wants to go somewhere and have a chance to play in the playoffs and have a chance to win a Super Bowl, especially since this is his last year. Yeah. I can't imagine you want to be your last year spending it in that locker room at 2-14.
And I hate to say it, but it's almost like the Dan Marino syndrome, the best quarterback never to win a championship. He's going to be the best. He's the greatest tight end ever.
Yeah.
I believe. And statistic-wise, he shows that. And he's not even going to have a championship show for him. Nothing.
And one playoff appearance at this point, if he's not traded in his entire career. One playoff appearance.
Yeah, well, the Chiefs didn't really offer him that in the first half of his career. He didn't bounce on them. He didn't leave them to go to a contending team. I just don't see him wanting to do that now, even though it's the end of his career. I don't peg him for that type of guy.
Yeah, he's a gamer. He's a loyal guy.
That's what I see.
He's
loyal. That's what it seems like.
That's a good point.
He's like the Chipper Jones.
That's a good point. I'm just saying I can't imagine that any professional athlete, because they're so driven to win, that's what it's always been about, is winning, and this is your last year and you're on a bad team and you've got teams that are interested in you. To me, it just makes sense for all the parties involved. The Falcons get something back that they can build on for the future. Tony Gonzalez gets to make another playoff run, and whoever it is that trades for him gets that experience that you talked about, Tyler, and the physicalness that he brings that you talked about, Garrett, on your football team. And instantaneously makes your football team better.
No doubt if Kansas City or any other team, whatever team he goes to, he's going to instantly make them a contender. Okay. But with that being said, the guy's 38 years old. Priorities are a little different at 38 than they are at 28.
Exactly.
I think he knows he's on his way out. He knows he's probably not ever, very, very, very slim chance. I don't want to Brett Favre him or nothing, but I mean, very, very, very slim chance that he plays next season. So I think he just wants to go out, and he doesn't want to move again. He doesn't want to, it's just try to sell a house in Atlanta or keep it and try to buy something. I mean, it's just, priorities are a little different at 38 than at 28.
And I will say, Father Time has been on his side. So to see him play another year, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he stuck around. I mean, he said he was going to do it. Said he was going to do it last year. Guess what? The guy looks like he's 28, not 38. I could see him playing one more year. Let's just see what happens.
No doubt he could.
I think he's got one more. I think he has
he's
more
got
than
4 more years.
Yeah, he's definitely got more than one more year left in the tank, as far as physical ability. But what about the middle drive of it? I mean, that's pretty taxing on you going through an NFL training camp and all that stuff just to get ready for the season.
Just to get ready. You're right.
Well, retire until the preseason's over.
Pull a Brett Favre.
Come back healthy and ready to go.
Maybe we are Brett Favre.
Oh, man, I tell you what. All right, well, we're against a hard break. We got to get out. UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network.
104.1 The Wave presents the Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, the authority on Southern sports.
This Southern Sports Edition Minute is brought to you by Island Automotive. The Frederica Knights failed to defend their state title as they went down to Curtis Baptist Friday night, 37-17 in the Final Four of the GISA playoffs. On Pirate Waters, Brunswick High will play their first basketball game in the brand new gym on January the 10th against Valdosta. This has been your Southern Sports Edition Minute, a product of the Bishop Media Sports Network, brought to you by Island Automotive. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at SSE Sports, and be sure to check out UnCleated with myself, Garrett Gibbs, and Tyler Mitchell at theSouthernSportsEdition.com.
Pick up your copy of SSE all over the Golden Isles. The Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, exclusively on 104.1 The Wave.
Football coverage. I mean real football coverage. Your answer then is Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com. From high school football to the pros, no one knows more and has better perspective on the teams you care about. Bulldogs, Falcons, Braves, and everything Southern Sports. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com has names you know and trust. Guys from here born and raised. Names like J.C. Outlaw, Kevin Price, Jason Bishop, and many more you know and trust. Ask your mom now. They'll tell you. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com is your unmatched source for Southern sports, period. The Southern Sports Edition at the SouthernSportsEdition.com.
With the Southern Sports Edition Minutes, brought to you by Robbie Robertson Ford, I'm Brian Blunt. GHSA football round 2 playoff action is history, and in Class 5A, the Ware County Gators dominated Northside Warner Robins in the Swamp Friday night, 35-7. Dedrick Mill scored yet another 3 touchdowns on the evening. And a coin flip will determine the venue of round 3 for the Gators as they take on Tucker next weekend, a 16-13 winner over East Paulding Friday. Meanwhile, in Class AAA, Pierce County season came to an end on the road at Callaway as the 5th-ranked Cavaliers defeated the Bears 49-21. Be sure to pick up your free copy of the Southern Sports Edition at Robbie Robertson Ford, 2825 Memorial Drive in Waycross, and visit us online at theSouthernSportsEdition.com. The Southern Sports Edition is a product of the Bishop Media Sports Network and is brought to you by Robbie Robertson Ford.
UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop. So we're going to start doing a couple of different segments here, a couple new segments that we're adding, and one of them is Garrett's Southern Soapbox, and so this is essentially where Garrett's going to get to vent what's on his mind. So if there are kids in the room, you might want to take them somewhere else because this is probably not going to be PG, folks.
Garrett's Southern Soapbox.
The new Braves stadium they're thinking about building up in in Cobb County. They're asking the taxpayers, a lot like what the Falcons are doing, they're asking the taxpayers to fund about 40 to 45% of it. And I don't agree with that. And they just built a stadium in 1996. I mean, come on, guys. This is one of the newest stadiums in the whole entire league. And you're going to build another $670 million facility right up the road. I can understand changing some of the, if you got a demographic problem or whatever, but, you should have thought about that in 1996 and not, you're just going to have to deal with it. And plus asking the taxpayers to pay for it when everybody's broke. Everybody's broke. What if I don't want none of my tax money to go to that? I don't have a say in that. They didn't put it out for vote. They're just going to, scratch somebody's back and they're going to get the money. Win another world championship. It's like I said about the Falcons Stadium. Win a world championship and then we might talk about it. But until then, y'all need to stay where you at.
Garrett Southern Soapbox.
I did keep it PG.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. A team that has a lot of fans that aren't keeping it PG right now are the Florida Gators. Great goodness.
Moment of silence.
Oh, they need it.
The team formerly known as the Florida Gators. All right, so that's 4-7 for them on the year, and they're the best win they have. And we're going to get into this loss in a minute because it's a really bad one. But the best win they have on the year is Tennessee. That's their best win.
Yes, it is.
So let's dive into the Georgia Southern game, and then we'll talk about all the implications after that. But okay, so Georgia Southern goes to the Swamp and takes down the Gators 26-20. Of course, Georgia Southern hasn't even made the jump to an FBS team. That doesn't happen yet. They're still down the FCS division, and yet they go on the road in the Swamp, which used to be a really tough place to win.
Not so much anymore.
Times have changed.
Times have changed. I mean, you go down there to Gainesville. Granted, it's not that far, but nobody goes to Gainesville and wins. And you go down there and not only win, you average 8 yards a rush. You rush for 429 yards.
Domination.
You throw for none on 3 attempts, and you beat the home team. How do you do that? And with Georgia Southern only giving up 279 yards to Florida, what is that? What is that? You can't even put 300 yards on a FCS team. What is that?
You can't even stop the run. Guess what, guys? They're running the ball every play, aside from 3 plays. They're running. Forget stacking it with 10. Stack the box with every player on the field and stop the run. What are you doing?
I think they need to put Muschamp at nose tackle.
You probably have a little more excitement than these guys did yesterday.
Georgia Southern, of course, runs that triple option offense, which gave the Gators fits on where the ball was going. Tyler, you bring up a really good point. I don't understand it either when you're not throwing the ball the entirety of the game, and you're running the ball every single time that you snap it. Eventually, I think you have to get smart and you have to bring in your safeties, especially when they're not even completing passes when they do throw the football. An embarrassing loss. And, the thing is, they split time of the Florida Gators and the Georgia Southern Eagles on completely different playing fields. The time of possession was almost completely even. Yeah. Florida had the ball for 30 minutes. Georgia Southern had the ball for 29 and change.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no way against an FCS team that you should be splitting time of possession.
No, I agree, and you're the less penalized team on top of that. I mean, you can't say you had 20 penalties for 1,000 yards. I mean, you were less penalized. You only had 2 penalties in the game, which is great. Especially since it was on a losing effort. I figured everybody's pulling their helmets off after that one. But what can you say? I just didn't realize. And I have to say this. I have to take a shot at them while I can. But I just didn't realize that Florida was that bad. They're that bad. That just makes the win, the Georgia win, look that much worse. I mean,
yeah, don't feel good about it. Georgia, they even gave them the ball twice with fumbles. Florida had no turn. You have no excuses. You have no turnovers. They're not throwing the ball at you. Hey, guess what, guys? We're running. That's what we're doing. We're going to even hand you the ball a couple times, fumble it, and you still can't beat us.
Yeah, I have to say, and they actually went, pretty identical on third down conversions. But I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen a college football box score. And I can even go back to, like, Pop Warner League. I don't think I've ever seen a Pop Warner League box score that had no yards per attempt, per throw, per pass. And be the winning team.
I've never seen it.
That's a new one for me. Even when high school football, which that's pretty much what they do predominantly for the most part. The teams that win anyway, for the most part, they run the football and they don't throw it very much. And I've never seen that.
I mean, you'll mess up and complete a pass eventually. You know what I mean, on accident.
Yeah, somebody will bust a coverage. You would think. In the Gators' defense,
no.
You can't defend that. Man.
Okay.
Tyler Murphy, their starting quarterback, has been down a second consecutive game that he's not playing. So Florida's down their third string quarterback in Skylar Morningweg. So in Florida's defense, if you're going to try to defend them, you have to take the injuries route.
Does the quarterback play linebacker or is he a safety? Oh, he's not. So how do you let these guys run every single play? The quarterback's not playing defense. Come on. It's not a good excuse. I don't accept it.
Muschamp, I think, is firmly now on the hot seat. From what I had heard down in Florida, down in Gainesville, is that even if they had lost to Florida State, and the thing is, that was with the assumption they were going to beat Georgia Southern. Even if they had lost to Florida State, Muschamp was basically going to get a mulligan for this year and try again next year. I'm not so sure that you lose to an FCS team in Georgia Southern and then turn around and get shellacked by Florida State, which is probably going to happen, and your best win is against Tennessee, and you've lost to Vanderbilt and Georgia and LSU all in the same year. I don't know how he survives this year, to be honest with you. I think he would have if he hadn't lost to Georgia Southern, but losing to Georgia Southern, that's a really bad loss.
It is. They've lost to every one of their rivals other than Tennessee this season. And, like you said, everything's kind of stacked in FSU's favor next weekend when they play.
Slightly.
And I don't see how they come out of that with a victory. So you're looking at a 4-8 year, and on top of that, a loss to an FCS team. I think he's done. I mean, looking at the history of the Gators, they do not give a coach very much time. Look at Ron Zook. Ron Zook beat Georgia every year and still got fired.
I think you need to repeat that for perspective. We're talking about a Florida Gator program with all the prestige and all the history, running a record of 4-8.
Yep.
Is that with 7 losses in a row?
Six.
Well, it will have
be.
Been.
With 7 losses.
I mean, once FSU
You're right.
puts the beating of a lifetime on Florida, I mean, I think saying he's on the hot seat's putting it lightly. I mean, just like the movie I watched last night, his seat is catching fire. It is ridiculous. And by the way, it was a pretty good movie, so I'll shout that out. Go ahead.
Sad thing is, you haven't heard much about this either. So that's why I'm thinking that he's done, because you haven't heard anything.
There's no debate.
No, I think they've kept it quiet just because they're going to do it after next weekend.
I think it's a good point with Ron Zook. He was there for 3 years at Florida and had winning seasons. Granted, they weren't competing for national championships, which is what the Gators are used to. And he was 8-4, 7-5, and that's not good enough in Gainesville. It's never going to be, much less 4-8, intolerable down there in the swamp. Won't happen.
Won't happen. I don't think he's around that, next season.
I do have one question though. Is Tebow playing football anywhere? Can we phone a friend, get Tebow back down in the swamp, play a little bit?
It never fails. It's like a magnet. You can never keep Tim Tebow out of conversations. He's not even on the radar, and somehow he still makes his way onto this show.
Yep. And I think he's trying to be an announcer for the Gators as we speak, but we'll see.
Maybe a coach.
Yeah, maybe.
Defensive coach.
I think that's what they need.
Muschamp just said his post-game press conference that they struggled offensively. Really?
I think they've done that all year.
Understatement of the year. We struggled offensively.
Without even looking at the offense, okay, whatever, but the defense, where are you at? The defense did not show up. I don't know. It's unbelievable. It's kind of taking me back a little bit.
Yeah, we got to get out. UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. When we get back, we're going to discuss Jameis Winston.
With the Southern Sports Edition Minutes, brought to you by Robbie Robertson Ford, I'm Brian Blunt. GHSA football round 2 playoff action is history, and in Class 5A, the Ware County Gators dominated Northside Warner Robins in the Swamp Friday night, 35-7. Dedrick Mill scored yet another 3 touchdowns on the evening. And a coin flip will determine the venue of round 3 for the Gators as they take on Tucker next weekend, a 16-13 winner over East Paulding Friday. Meanwhile, in Class AAA, Pierce County season came to an end on the road at Callaway as the 5th-ranked Cavaliers defeated the Bears 49-21. Be sure to pick up your free copy of the Southern Sports Edition at Robbie Robertson Ford, 2825 Memorial Drive in Waycross, and visit us online at thesouthernsportsedition.com. The Southern Sports Edition is a product of the Bishop Media Sports Network and is brought to you by Robbie Robertson Ford.
D1 football coverage. I mean real football coverage. Your answer then is Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com. From high school football to the pros, no one knows more and has better perspective on the teams you care about. Bulldogs, Falcons, Braves, and everything Southern Sports. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com has names you know and trust. Guys from here born and raised. Names like J.C. Outlaw, Kevin Price, Jason Bishop, and many more you know and trust. Ask your mom now. They'll tell you. The Southern Sports Edition and the SouthernSportsEdition.com. SouthernSportsEdition.com is your unmatched source for Southern sports, period. The Southern Sports Edition at the SouthernSportsEdition.com.
104.1 The Wave presents the Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, the authority on Southern sports.
This Southern Sports Edition Minute is brought to you by Island Automotive. The Frederica Knights failed to defend their state title as they went down to Curtis Baptist Friday night, 37-17 in the Final Four of the GISA playoffs. On Pirate Waters, Brunswick High will play their first basketball game in the brand new gym on January the 10th against Valdosta. This has been your Southern Sports Edition Minute, a product of the Bishop Media Sports Network, brought to you by Island Automotive. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at SSE Sports, and be sure to check out UnCleated with myself, Garrett Gibbs, and Tyler Mitchell at the SouthernSportsEdition.com.
Pick up your copy of SSE all over the Golden Isles. The Southern Sports Edition Minute with Jason Bishop, exclusively on 104.1 The Wave.
Welcome back. UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop here with you, and just want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. We talked earlier about a new segment that we were doing, Garrett's Southern Soapbox. We'll have another one called Tyler Holding It Down.
Tyler, holding it down.
Well, let me start holding it down. I wish I could hold it down as good as Tim Hudson has done for the Atlanta Braves over the past 7 or so years. This guy, he's a class act, very respected in the league. Even when you saw he broke his ankle trying to cover the bag on first base, you see how much love other major league players, even on the opposing team, have for this guy. His whole family just seems like a great group of people. They're in the community. It's just going to be really sad as an Atlanta fan and just as a baseball fan in general to see Tim Hudson leave the Atlanta area. But I'll get to see some games with him, on the Giants, and you really can't say enough good words about Tim Hudson. This guy, he is a gamer. He just comes in and day out. Great attitude, plays a great game, loves the game, and you can tell every single day. So Tim Hudson, thanks for a lot of great memories on the Braves, and we're going to be sad to see you go, buddy.
Jameis Winston, I'm sure, is going to be glad to see all these charges or whatever this situation fly by and get through with. So here we are. Jameis Winston being accused of sexual battery right in the middle of a national championship run, a possible Heisman run, which is
go figure.
Is that ironic or what?
It's interesting.
It must be a coincidence.
Well, when you have the case I think the alleged victim filed a report in December of last year. Okay, well, ironic enough, he was a red shirt, didn't play at all last year. Okay, so all right, wasn't a big stud like he is this year. Well, then all of a sudden they forget. He wasn't even interviewed or anything by any authorities until, earlier, about mid-season or so. All right, well, now all of a sudden they forget that they never closed the case, and now all of a sudden it's a big deal since he's a Heisman contender and possibly a national championship contender. Why is it all of a sudden reopened? I mean, the timing is just horrendous.
Yeah, the timing's atrocious. If all these allegations are false, you can't help but feel bad for the guy. I mean, he's at the peak of his career. Great things are happening for him. National championship potential, possibly win a Heisman, which, if you ask me, I think he deserves it. Is this going to, leave a little mark on, everybody's outlook on this guy? If this keeps prolonging, if it takes a little longer to kind of come to a head and figure out either is he guilty of something or is this just allegations, point blank. So feel bad for the guy. Now that said, if any of this is true, it's just a very sad situation.
I think it's a very sad situation. The thing is, you mentioned the Heisman thing. Johnny Manziel losing to LSU, and then Marcus Mariota and the Ducks losing to Arizona. Mariota not playing well. I think the situation now is Jameis Winston has pretty much risen as head and shoulders as the Heisman favorite,
right,
on most people's lists, including mine. So the timing couldn't be more coincidental, in my opinion. Garrett, you brought up a good point that this happened last year. Well, not necessarily a 12-month calendar year, but almost a calendar year, and there was nothing said about this until this didn't come out until that first BCS poll came out. Remember that now. The first BCS poll came out. Florida State was right there in the thick of it, and then all of a sudden, a couple days later, bam, there it is. It crawls across the scrolling screen on the bottom, and as far as having a little bit of creative control over this show, we haven't talked about it because I have felt that the timing was just so weird.
Yeah.
Because to me it seems unsubstantiated. But now they're looking at pressing charges, and if he gets indicted, we're talking about a whole different ballgame here.
Well, we're talking about the timing of this incident. I mean, in February of this year, 9 months ago, his attorney was contacted saying by a detective that the case was closed. Okay, so that was 2 months after the alleged, the report was filed. So from February to Friday, which was November to the 8th, is when it resurfaced. February to November. I mean, you're talking, a 9 month period there that, why the delay? I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. If I was a victim in something like that, and I found out or even thought that the case might have been closed, I'd be up there at the station every day.
There'd be an uproar. A lot of this from the sounds and everything I've been reading and hearing, it seems like the Tallahassee Police Department or whoever's handling this has really dropped the ball. I mean, you hear one thing about what they might or might not have told the alleged victim, and then if any of that's true, there's going to be a lot of people looking for a new job.
UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, Jason Bishop. We can, the thing is, we hear all these reports.
Right.
All we're doing is passing along hearsay from what this person says, this person says, this person says, and everybody has, a case or a want or a desire or an outcome that they're looking to get out of this. So who knows? Essentially, what this is going to come down to, I believe, is it's going to be Jameis Winston's word versus this girl's word. I mean, essentially, that's what it's going to come to, where Jameis Winston's going to say this was consensual, and then this girl. And remember now, here's the difference: we're not dealing with a rape.
Right.
We're not dealing with a rape charge. We're dealing with a sexual assault charge, which of course is not quite as bad, but still, it's going to come down. And not that it's great.
I was about to say you're kind of splitting hairs.
Yeah,
here, really.
I agree, but it's going to come down to this girl. He said, she said, literally, Jameis Winston versus whoever this young lady is, and. Who knows? You're never going to know. The only two people that are going to know Jameis Winston and this girl.
And you know, she's made a lot of comments about this. She's, you know, told the authorities certain things. She didn't know the guy. Remember, you probably heard about, she thought he was 5'10". Jameis Winston's a pretty big fella. But, you know, then there's also reports that they got pictures together on Facebook and social media, so you obviously know who the fella is. You know what's going on. I hope this isn't just one of those cases of the girl trying to make some profit off of someone else's success.
I hope that's not the case too, and of course, being a
I'd rather that be the case as opposed to sexual battery, but
yeah, you know, I hope that's the case as well. But you know, being a professional athlete or in the limelight like Jameis Winston is, even though he's not a professional yet, you got to be careful with that stuff. You know, you've got to pick and choose and stay in your circles. You really do.
Right. Yeah, and unfortunately, you know, as Michael Vick learned, you know, several years back, that your circles change as your status changes. You know, I'm sorry, but you just can't. You know, you can't hang out with the people. You know, you are with the company that you keep. So,
right.
You know, you can't go from having nothing to making $30 million a year and still hang out with your homeboys back home. I mean, it just don't work that way. I'm sorry.
I'd still hang out with you if I had $30 million.
You are lying.
You would, but I'd be you retarded then.
No, you wouldn't. But you know, Garrett's absolutely right. When you move up or when you're trying to better yourself, and you really can't start hanging around these barflies and people that, you know, are trying to leech off of other people. You know, and he's obviously learning this the hard way, but hopefully he is learning this now and can proceed to grow and become which I think will be an NFL football player. So good luck getting through it, and I hope the best out of this situation.
You know, really quick, here's a scenario that you have to take a look at. Let's just say that Jameis Winston, there's enough evidence to indict him on this, and he gets indicted. Well, then automatically the NCAA suspends him. And let's say the Florida State Seminoles finish undefeated, Ohio State finishes undefeated, Alabama finishes undefeated. Alabama's going to get in. And so now you've got an undefeated Florida State team without Jameis Winston.
Right.
And then an undefeated Ohio State team. When it comes to the voting, if you're a pollster, do you vote Florida State into the national championship game despite the fact they're going to be at a huge disadvantage and not nearly the team without Jameis Winston, or do you put Ohio State? I mean, it just, you know, the implications.
I still go with FSU in the title game because of what they've done all season, and you know, I don't know. Yeah, as good as Jameis Winston is, I think the key to their successes has been their defense. So I still think they might not put up 50, they might only put up 35, but they still got one of the best defenses in the country.
Yeah, I would say even without Winston, you're dealing with a tough team right here. FSU, every time I seem to get a chance to watch them, that defense is all over the place. I mean, they live in the backfield. It's fun to watch, and when you have a premier quarterback like he is, it just adds to the problems for your opponents. So FSU, no Jameis Winston, still a contender.
Always a contender, UnCleated here on the Bishop Media Sports Network. That's going to do it for us for this week. Signing off for Garrett Gibbs, Tyler Mitchell, I'm Jason Bishop.